Hello and welcome to What's Next. It's the Indy NXT Road Series here from Silverstone, and it's Grand Prix configuration. We're across the pond in England a full week prior to the British Grand Prix, as Vault9 in chat has mentioned. It's the home of British motor racing. The debut Grand Prix for Formula One was held here, I believe, back in the 1950s at some point. Home of many iconic corners, including Maggots and Beckett's, the long final hanger straight, alongside a slew of other iconic corners and scenery around the former airfield here in England. Sophie, this is an iconic venue for open wheel racing, but not one that we've seen in kind of the American sphere of it, given its laudedness in Formula One circles.
No, if you're looking for the track in Britain with the most experience for American open wheel, that would probably go to Brands Hatch, where Cart ran the Indy circuit here. In iRacing, though, one of the stories with Silverstone is its track limits. You do have those fearsome corners like Cops, where just running that little bit wide to try and carry as much speed as possible can completely invalidate your lap if you're not careful. And then, of course, you have these technical sections where it's so easy to just overshoot a corner and find yourself sliding afoul of those tight track limits in places like Brooklands.
And a fairly stout group of drivers are ready to take this track on this evening. 39.43, the strength of field, coming up just short of the second highest in all-time series history, just behind last season opener at St. Petersburg. We're riding outboard with our number one machine tonight. That'll be piloted by none other than Andre Castro. He's back once again here behind the wheel of the Dallara IL-15 for some Indy NXT Road Series action. Iconic cast of characters from top to bottom. Pretty much every driver in this field tonight has a story to come from somewhere, and we'll touch on everybody through the field in due time. We'll continue to ride with Castro here as he continues down the first large straightaway here at Silverstone. We'll hop on board with him. Inside the IL-15 here as he works around. I believe this is going to be turn number 8. You'll have to forgive me. I'm not as aware of the corner names here as I am at a lot of other circuits across the calendar, but Castro running it nice and close to the former pit straight here from Silverstone as he works his way towards my favorite corner of the track, his right-hander at the tail end of the straight.
Yeah, I believe the corner that he just went through is Cops. Interesting story about that old pit straight, Jacob. That allowed for the infamous Michael Schumacher serving his stop-and-go penalty as he crossed the finish line moment, I believe from the 2000 running of the British Grand Prix.
Yeah, certainly some clever tomfoolery. I believe that was recently reproduced by Jarno Opmeer in F1 esports competition, albeit the current pit lane around here at Silverstone. I believe that got a finger wag and some sort of penalty at the end of the day for that one, but hopefully we won't see too much tomfoolery with a lack of needing to use the pit lanes here at Silverstone and Indy NXT Road Series competition. Castro's going to round the final corner here. We're going to see what he puts down for his first 2 qualifying laps here. 1:46.047 the time here. Suspect we'll see drivers get into the 145s. There's Aiden Kale with a 145.860. We've been corrected by Mr. Luke John Buckle in the chat. It was 1998 for Schumacher's infamous "I'm going to go into the pit lane to serve my penalty on the final lap" moment. So it's Aiden Kale on provisional pole, the only driver so far to crack into the 145-second bracket. Corey will join him. He'll take provisional pole back, 145.774 the time from him. And that was kind of where I was expecting times to come into this week after recording the track guide for this week. I believe the time on display there's a 146.8. Silverstone's not a track I was familiar with really up until recording the laps for that guide in its Grand Prix configuration. Most recently, I would have tackled it in a Legends car on the national configuration that utilizes kind of this area over by the former pit straight that Castro is working through now. Obviously, very different set of circumstances behind the wheel of a Legends Ford 34 Coupe compared to these IL-15s around here as we watch Castro agilely go through kind of the Maggots Beckett's area of the track. That one I can at least remember as he'll head on to the hanger straight here, work his way to close this lap out.
Yes, and heading down into Stowe, which then leads into the Vale and Club, the last 2 corners on the track.
And the exit there, you kind of see those green painted runoff areas on the exit there as Castro will head towards the chicane here. That seems to be the easiest place to go, what iRacing would consider to be off the track there. So if we're going to see drivers pick up those off-track incident points, that's likely going to be where they're going to do it. Castro crossed the line on his second lap here. Does not improve. Don't believe that last time was valid for Castro, so he's just going to have to rely on that first lap being good enough here. So we'll try to catch Jarrett Corey's run complete. He's heading through that final chicane here in that Rogue Racing machine. See if he can improve on lap 2 here. He will not. Slightly slower, just about 100th slower lap to lap there. Actually, no, a little bit more than that. Looks like about 300ths there, but nonetheless, he stays precisionally on the pole. Aiden Cale does improve, but not enough to take... Or sorry, I'm looking at times all over the place. Cale doesn't improve on his second lap, so none of the top 3 are going to improve. We'll see if anybody's got an answer for Corey at the point. Nobody, I guess, close enough that I would think at this rate. We'll have to see if maybe Giovanni Blackerby or the likes of maybe of an Eduardo Escoto. Because Escoto's got a black flag. Not sure what maybe he had happen to him there. Maybe he exited the pit lane incorrectly at a point in time. See what he's got going on. Blackerby doesn't appear to have gotten a time in, so he'll be starting deep in this field. We know he's quick. Dylan Vilashinsky back once again. He's in the 6th spot. Little over a minute left to go here in qualifying. We'll see if anybody can put another time down or if we're just waiting for the timer to run out here, Sophie.
Yeah, I believe we're going to be waiting for the time to run out here. Giovanni Blackerby not setting a time. Neither is Christian Jasper. That's not a name that many people would recognize from the Indy NXT machine, Jacob, but we would recognize Christian Jasper as well as Drew Such from the Formula Super Series that we used to broadcast earlier in the year.
Yeah, Such picked up a couple wins in that series, if I recall correctly, so it'll be certainly cool to see him make another mount of charge here in a different open wheel machine here on the P1 Broadcasting Channel. A little over 20 some odd seconds to go here left in qualifying. We're going to watch the timer tick down, get to a starting lineup, and get ready for, I believe, 15 IL-15s to take to the iconic Silverstone circuit to continue in Season 3 of 2026 here for the Indy NXT Road Series. Of course, Castro picked up the win last time out at Road America. He's been our only winner at Road America. Last time we would have been in the United Kingdom would have been Dustin Smith picking up the win at Brands Hatch. Prior to that, I believe it would be all the way back to the inaugural season at Oulton Park, which saw Stefan Majman pick up the win over Michael Zakola and Tyler Van Beek in round number 8 of that season. But we're ready to get underway here from Silverstone. Let's see what these drivers can do as we take on Britain's home for motor racing. Robert Ridgway chiming in, citing the quick drivers. Go ahead.
Yes,
Sophie.
and we are going to get a short pace lap here as they are lined up on the hanger straight here, Jacob, just before Stowe.
Yeah, we'll catch those cars as they're lined up on the grid here. We'll try to get a bit closer to the machines here. See if maybe we can find a... Oop. There we go. Seems to be a bit closer. We can get a better view of these machines as they get lined up on the grid. There's Aiden Cale's machine. And we'll run you through the starting lineup here from Silverstone. Gonna wait for just a couple more cars to hit to the grid as a lot of the starters near the front are taking their sweet time. Alrighty.
As we start to see some of the more of the front runners fill out the grid, Jacob, let's go through the starting lineup here. On the pole is the defending champion, Jarrett Corey, with a 1:45.7. Alongside him, Aiden Cale, who is no slouch in these IL-15 machines. Andre Castro, last week's winner, lines up third alongside Takumi Numata of Japan in fourth. Robert Ridgway is lining up in fifth alongside Indy Oval champion Dylan Vilashinsky in sixth. Formula Super Series competitor Dylan Such is in seventh, and Nicholas Sudik, the Nexus Esports driver, lines up in eighth. William Lindbergh is in ninth, and Mateo Santos in 10th. Kenneth Smith is in 11th alongside Chris Wetz in 12th. Eduardo Escoto of Mexico is in 13th alongside Giovanni Blackerby, who did not take time, and Christian Jasper, another Formula Super Series competitor lining up shotgun on the grid. Pace car is off. Jacob, take it away.
We'll get underway here shortly as the drivers will round the final corner. We'll get ready to go here as Jared Corey will get control of the field off the final corner. You see a bit amount of dust coming off that machine as they head off the final corner down the front straightaway, and Corey gets a solid launch. Castro's going to join him.
Yeah, there's such a long run up there because of Club Corner as they all head through Abbey, now down towards Farm into that tight technical section before the Wellington Straight.
Kale looks to the outside on Castro. Castro's going to block it off. He's going to have kind of the preferred line on the inner section of the track here. We're clean through the first couple of corners so far. Car running wide there. I believe that's going to be Ridgeway. Losing a spot to Dylan Vilashinsky. Kale's going to take a pop out. See a bit of a battle going on further in the field. Behind, I believe that's going to be Kenneth Smith and Mateus Santos. Going side by side here through 8 and 9. And they'll head on to the pit straight, or the former pit straight here, head down towards Cops.
Yes, Jared Corey out in front with Andre Castro lurking just behind, but Castro has his gearbox and mirrors all full of Aiden Kale in that number 5 machine.
Okay, you got go ahead.
They're charging through Mackett's and Beckett's now. Kale runs a little off sequence there, Jacob. Gives Castro a little bit of breathing room.
And that seems to be the complex of corners where you can gain and lose the most time around here as Castro gets a bit of a charge on in on Corey as they head down the hanger straight towards Stowe. They'll round that, head through Vale. You see Corey run wide there. Stays ahead for the time being. They'll head through this kind of final chicane and then round the final corner, and that'll complete the opening lap here from Silverstone. Push to pass will be enabled now. 65 seconds available until the finish. We'll see how drivers opt to use it at this very high-speed track.
Yes, we're already seeing battles all throughout the field. Giovanni Blackerby just got around Eduardo Escoto, so moved Blackerby up 1 spot from where he started. Robert Ridgway's kind of fallen a little bit down the order. Ridgway started in the 5th spot, has lost a position to Vilashinsky and Drew Such, but thankfully has a bit of a breather before William Lindbergh gets to him.
Yeah, a bit of a gap kind of on both sides of Ridgway here, trailing Vilashinsky and ahead of Lindbergh there. They're going to head through long turn, long kind of closing corner there as they head onto the old pit straight, head down towards Cops. And pretty much any of these longer significant straights give a good opportunity for these drivers to maybe size up some moves into these corners, Sophie.
Yeah, it's sorry, lost my words. They died on my tongue there a little bit. But yeah, no, it is. With some of these longer straightaways, these cars aren't as quick as their IR18 brethren, and so that kind of gives you more time to settle in, gives you more time to react and maybe plan your moves out better, Jacob. And it also means that, you know, you're not going to be as affected by dirty air, so you can kind of run a lot closer through corners like Maggots and Beckett's, and of course Cops.
Yeah, you got that large rear wing to help in those heavy load corners where you're trying to carry as much speed as you can. It's also very difficult to carry any more speed than you can really handle through there, as Jarrett Corey will go purple with a 145.780. See if that continues to fall in the opening stages here as we get to lap number 3. Move further up the grid here. Actually, we'll move further back as that battle between Smith and Santos continues to rage for the 10th spot.
Yeah, those two have been all over each other. Santos in a Red Bull livery, while Smith, I believe that is a Al Jr. livery from the early 90s with that particular Valvoline scheme, Jacob. I'm sure. Oh, Santos fell back. Santos had something wrong there, and Blackerby passed him by like he was standing still. Maybe he ran a little too wide and just Yep, looks like he just ran wide, and Blackerby had a really good run and moved Blackerby in that Newgarden paint up into the 11th position.
Yeah, and something I noticed recording laps for the track guide we have up on the channel this week is that straight kind of leading towards that complex of corners that kicks off would be kind of the national, or the, I guess, second sector of the track. It's rather easy to get a little too wide there, and there's a dirt patch kind of past the rumble strips out there that if you grab the throttle, you can go for a spin. Could have potentially caught out Santos there as they work their way out of the back straightaway, and ultimately Blackerby will pick up a spot out of that, and he'll be under fire from Chris Wetz as they head through Stowe and Vale.
Also, oh! Leland Vilashinsky and Drew Such make contact! Such is around. Vilashinsky, I think, kept it out of the wall. No, he did not. Bangs the rear wing. Looks like he's forgiven. But that's a heartbreak for Vilashinsky. We'll see if he has any damage. Let's take another look at that, Jacob. Yes, Vilashinsky is very damaged. His rear wing is gone, and he loses it, and off into the gravel he goes. The second he tries to get going in. Let's take another look at that, Jacob. That contact was Such.
Yeah, it looks like Vilashinsky kind of gets out to the runoff curb area. I'm not sure if contact's made before or after the slide that Vilashinsky seems to start. We'll get a look from inside the car and see maybe from Such's angle if there's anything further that happens there. We'll run that back one more time.
It looks to me like the slide starts because of the contact with with Such. Such was really trying to get the power down. It's such a tricky complex there because, as you can see there, Vilashinsky takes the inside line into the first corner. That's Brooklyn. That's Brooklyn's. Or sorry, no, this is that's Vale. And now they're going through Club, and Such has the inside line, but then he just wants to get the power down, tries to use all the track. It looks like he just stops turning there, and just kind of just clatters into Vilashinsky. And that ultimately is what happened there.
That's going to take them both well down the order. They're going to be well off the back of the field now. Some 5 seconds of drift for Such, another about 25 from Such to Vilashinsky there. So that takes them effectively out of contention for a top 10, barring some major incidents here. But I have started to see, though, as the cat and mouse game being played between Castro and Corey here as they work their way through the opening set of corners here on lap 5. Gaps kind of lingered between 4 to 6 tenths, depending on where you catch them on the track here. Just seems to be where does Corey gain time versus Castro gaining time back the other direction. Castro's going to get on the button. Corey will now. Gale will join them. They're going to head down this straight towards, I believe this is turn 7 here at the tail end of the back straight here.
Yes, this is Brooklyn's, and then the next corner is Luffield. And this whole section is just so technical that if you make the slightest mistake, Jacob, that can cost you that little bit of time. And I think that's why the gap is just fluctuating that little bit. One driver makes a mistake here, another makes another one there, and it ultimately is just evening out. Neither is gaining ground significantly on the other as they head through Cops, now into Maggots and Beckett's. Each driver committing. There's so little room for error here. You see those large sausage curbs there. If you clatter them the wrong way, it can really hurt your run, Jacob.
Yeah, that's something that you very much have to get practice to. You're kind of checking up, maybe dropping 2 gears to start kind of the left of that kind of left, right, left sequence you've got going on through there. And you've really got to commit to that. Otherwise, you're going to go for a wider run or maybe slow up too much and end up kind of washed out or beached in the middle of the track, just having no speed left when you get off onto the hanger straight. And that gives cars behind you a huge opportunity to make up time. Corey manages to maintain the gap over that lap, stays about 4 tenths there as they're going to head through the opening couple of corners once again. Castro's going to creep into the picture just a little bit here, just over 3 tenths now, and Cale's staying in tow, so this is still a 3-car fight at the front.
Yeah, Cale really seems to close up in the entry of those technical sections as we see him through Farm, now heading on to the Wellington Straight. Thing to note here, Jacob, Dylan Vilashinsky just exited the pit lane after getting a new rear wing, Obviously, his chances of a good finish are gone after that contact. He came out of that far worse than Drew Such. But you know, if his pace isn't really improving much, if there's some other damage, he could find himself getting lapped by our leaders, and that could play a factor in the race.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. He's about 1:07 adrift of the front here. Lap times around here about 1:45. So if it's significantly off the pace, that may be the case as we're working lap 6 of 12 here this evening. This is not the only race we'll have going on the channel this week. We'll take this time to highlight what else we've got going here on P1 Broadcasting throughout the rest of this week. It's going to be quite the shift here, as actually we've got a battle for the lead here with Castro right off the back of Jarrett Corey as they head down the hanger straight.
Yes, gonna take a look to the inside. They wash out, nearly make contact. Corey has to run wide to avoid the washing out of Castro. Corey under attack here. Castro has the inside into club. This is where Drew Such and Vilashinsky had their contact. They keep it clean. Corey runs wide, and it looks like Aiden Kale's also going to get through as they head into Abbey.
Corey will hold tough on the outside there, make that stick on Kale. He's going to have to work his way back by Castro here. Big lunge at the tail end of that straight there. They'll head down through this left-hander here and work their way towards the next significant straight of note. As Kale's right off the back of him, he's going to have to look ahead and behind here as they head down the straight.
Yeah, Aiden Kale right under the gearbox. Corey gaining massively on Castro. Goes for the inside lunge into Brooklands. Around Luffield, Corey back to the point as they're going to head down the old pit straight into Cops Corner, where that infamous contact between Lewis Hamilton and Verstappen happened several years ago.
Yeah, Corey barely got that car slowed up at the end of the straight to make that move stick. He ultimately gets out ahead, but at what cost here? He's about 12 seconds down on the push-to-pass compared to Castro, and another 3 to Kale. If we take a quick look at that number here now, 35 for Corey, 47 for Castro, 50 for Kale. You see Numata on 38 and Ridgeway on 32, and you can see the rest of the field in their push-to-pass figures here as we head down the hanger straight with our leaders here. Corey's looking to try to break the draft any way he can. He's going to stay ahead for the time being. Castro doesn't get a look in just yet, but he definitely thought about it.
Yeah, he definitely thought about it, and while Corey is at a push-to-pass disadvantage right now, Jacob, there's only 5 laps left. That 12 seconds, while it's significant given how little we have, if Jarrett can manage to defend without using it, he'll probably be in a decent spot with his button, even though he used that extra 12 seconds to retake the lead.
Certainly just have to wait and find out. He gets the gap back out to about 3/10 over Castro as they head through the right-hander here, work their way towards that next long straight where he made the pass a lap prior. Castro's under fire from Kale. This gives Corey an opportunity to maybe build a bit of a gap here back to Castro. It gives us an opportunity to maybe slide in. Some continued coverage throughout the week. We'll watch the braking zone here and see Castro looks to make a move. He definitely thought about lunging for it. Maybe he's just trying to size it up and see if he can sneak a car in there later on in the show. So they'll work their way towards that pit straight, head down towards Cops. Let's get you a rundown of what's going on the rest of the week here on P1. Tomorrow night will be the top split coverage for the IndyCar Oval Series. It'll take place 8:15 Eastern Time from Michigan. And me and Sophie will be back tomorrow night with the second round of the Indy NXT Oval Series for 2026 Season 3, taking on South Boston at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That'll be quite the spectacle under the lights. And then it will be just the AMA Grand National Series Thursday night from Sonoma, 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time for that. And then we're back to Monday, where we continue our IndyCar Open and Indy NXT Road Series coverage. The series both will be heading to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for the series debut of it in the Indy NXT Road Series, and of course many a time in IndyCar Open Series competition. We're working lap 8 here, getting to the conclusion of it. 1/3 of the race left to go here, Sophie, but it has been an absolute heater at the front of the field here.
Yes, Giovanni Blackerby has retired, or is in the pits with no front section, no rear. Looks like he had a massive moment. So that will bump up the likes of Drew Such and Dylan Waleshinski. Looks like, looks like there was massive contact into Cobb's corner in an exact recreation of that Hamilton contact, except Santos, who he had contact with, is much worse for wear. Blackerby over and out. So, tough break for Giovanni Blackerby. Backed up at the front, though, Jacob. Corey has stretched out a little bit of a lead over Castro.
And you can kind of hear the lap machine of Dylan Waleshinski up the road here. It's possible these cars catch him, depending on how much more time there is left for him to be caught. So it looks like Santos is going to come down the pit lane now himself, try to repair that automobile, so he'll likely also lose a spot to at least Such, if not Waleshinski here. So that'll move them up further in the field. We'll see how that plays out for the driver of the 15 machine. Corey continues to lead here, has still about a 12-second deficit on the push to pass here. I imagine all three of these drivers are saving as much of it as they can for the final lap or two around here. Gonna have to wait and see how that plays out. As we saw it play a big factor late in the stages at Road America to open this season up. Cale's gonna get on the button a little bit down the front straight there as we get on to lap number 10.
Yes, and another update, Mateo Santos, who had that contact with Giovanni Blackerby, has also now retired from the race. So both cars out from that contact into Cobb's corner. Right now, Aiden Cale is all over the back of Castro. Cale has been in third ever since the drop of the green flag. Really did not have a good start and really hasn't been able to retake that position from Castro, even though he's shown those flashes of speed. As they head through Brooklands now into Luffield, out onto the old pit straight. Cale is right under the wing there at the apex.
They'll head down the old pit straight towards Cobb's. You see Waleshinski enter that corner there. He is just up the road. I don't believe they're going to catch him, so he'll stay kind of out of this fight at the front here. Castro pulls away just a little bit from Cale now, so he'll head towards Maggots and Beckett's here.
I was going to say, I noticed that Jarrett Corey takes a different line compared to Castro through that S's complex, that Maggots and Beckett's complex. And he seems to, as we see Castro having to defend from Cale. Cale taking a look around the outside into Stowe, right up under the gearbox. Looking this way and that way as they head into Vale. Castro is going to have to defend as they head through the chicane. Cale gets a little bit loose as they now head onto the front straightaway. That gives Castro a reprieve as he is free to look ahead and focus forward on that road racing machine of Jarrett Corey.
Yeah, still that three-car break at the front. You've got Takumi Numata holding down the 4th spot, and then another 3 seconds or so back to Robert Ridgway in the 5th spot. Then William Lindbergh about a second adrift of that. He's followed up by Nick Sudik, who's as close in fairly significantly, sitting just inside 0.4 of a second there. We'll hop back to that for the time being. About half-second gap between Lindbergh and Sudik here for 6th. And you got Kenneth Smith, Christian Jasper, Chris Wetz, the top 10. Eduardo Escoto, Drew Such, Dylan Waleshinski, the last of the cars still operating out on the course as Santos and Blackerby. Santos has left the premises and Blackerby's still in for repairs on that number 7 machine. Hop back to the front, though, as the battle's going to heat back up as Andre Castro no longer really has to fend off Aiden Cale for that 2nd spot. He's looking to take the lead back from Jarrett Corey before this one wraps up.
Yeah, they are closing in on the white flag lap. Castro closing in massively through Maggots and Beckett's as they head now onto the hangar straight. Castro in the draft, going to try and use what push to pass he has left to close in as they head into Stowe. Castro sends it in deep, but manages to get the car under control. They're now heading into the Vale chicane, closing really tight up under braking there. as they now head into the final corner, Club.
You saw Vilashinsky, or rather heard him hum down the pit lane there. He's going to stay out of this as the leaders will take the white flag here. Hats off to Vilashinsky. Surely a class act and a champion of Indy NXT oval competition in back-to-back seasons. He's going to give way to the road drivers here to go at it for the finish here. It's still a three-way battle as Kale's worked his way back into it. Castro struggles through the opening sector. Is he going to get a run at it here?
Yeah, Kale seems to have a much better line through that opening sector, that farm and village section after Abbey, than Castro. Castro really struggles in that opening sector, and that allows Corey to kind of get a reprieve, even though he's not as quick through Maggots and Beckett's.
Yeah, and that push to pass disadvantage is coming to bite back Corey now. He sits on 6 seconds. Castro's on the button. He's going to end up on 12. Kale's likewise on 12. It's going to come down to likely that run down the hanger straight for the final time as Castro's just about there off the back of Jarrett Corey as they head through Maggots and Beckett's.
Yes, watch how much wider Castro ran there through the opening part of Maggots and Beckett's. They're heading now through that final section. 6 seconds of push to pass left for Jarrett Corey. Can he make it count? Making that IL-15 as wide as possible. Castro looking. He's going to have to go to the outside through Stowe. He is there. They make contact. They're rubbing against side pod, banging wheels down into the Vale chicane. Corey on the inside now for Club. Kale gets, big time contact between Castro and Kale. And Jarrett Corey is going to take the win as Andre Castro limps across the line after that contact with Aiden Kale. Kale just had a massive head of steam through there, and then Andre Castro just lost it on the exit and just caught Kale, sent Kale around for a spin.
Yeah, here's Aiden Kale in the 5 machine. You see Castro go for a bit of a slide through the final corner here. Kale comes in deep. Castro goes around. Not sure if maybe there's additional contact made earlier before that, but that sends Kale around. And ultimately, Takumi Numata comes in and picks up the final step of the podium here. So a good drive for Numata to pick that piece back up. And that's going to do it here from Silverstone. Dramatics all the way to the line as Jarrett Corey is going to manage to hold on and win this race.
Yes, an absolutely stellar drive from Jarrett Corey. He abused that push to pass that when he needed to get the lead back, and used it just enough to stay ahead of Andre Castro. And then Aiden Kale just with the Hail Mary move into Club to get the inside line. Castro maybe got spooked, got a little too aggressive on the loud pedal, spun it, hooked him around, and unfortunately, while Castro gets to keep the P2, Takumi Numata slots home in 3rd.
Jarrett was being nice and patient for us and opted to burn it down now as his car is prominently on the screen. And we'll run you through tonight's finishing lineup here from Silverstone in a very dramatic top split event here on P1. And it will be Jarrett Corey with the win in 4 seconds. Pull over to Andre Castro following the last corner contact between Castro and Kale. Takumi Numata comes in and rounds out the podium in the 3rd spot as Kale falls to 4th. Robert Ridgway will hold on to the last spot in the top 5. William Lindbergh, Nick Sudik hold on to 6th and 7th. Kenneth Smith will be 8th ahead of Christian Jasper. Chris Wetz, Andre Castro's teammate, will round out the top 10. Further down the field, you've got Eduardo Escoto, Drew Such, last of the cars on the lead lap. We saw Dylan Vilashinsky, or maybe even heard him rather, come down the pit lane prior to that final lap to let the leaders have at it. He'll finish 13th following the contact between himself and Such. Mateus Santos in 14th and Giovanni Blackerby in 15th. They came close, kind of at the midway point of this race through Cops. We'll get you to the podium finishers here, see what they have to say from a wild one here at Silverstone. And we'll thank William Lindbergh for being a participant here tonight and enjoying the show.
Yes, as we wait for the podium finishers to get in the interview room. Again, just a hard-fought race in the top 3 drivers there, but also across the board And we saw that with the amount of contact. We saw that with the contact between Drew Such and Dylan Filashinsky that unfortunately took them out of the running. And then, of course, with Giovanni Blackerby and Mateus Santos, those two drivers just, this course requires a lot of commitment. And if you just make the slightest mistake there, Jacob, it all ends in tears.
Yeah, we'll start with our winner here in Jarrett Curry. We'll see if Andre Castro or Takumi Numata managed to find us. We'll get the link in chat in case somebody's looking for it.
While we potentially wait, Jacob, maybe we should talk to our winner here, one Jarrett Corey,
Yeah.
picking up where he left off, famously dominate. Oh,
There we go. We got him up here. Jarrett, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us?
Yep.
Well, you managed to hold out a front of a very close battle between yourself, Andre Castro, and Aiden Kale. Ultimately, Castro and Kale having a bit of a clash through the final corner there. You skirt out ahead to a nice, comfortable 4-second lead at the line, but it certainly wasn't comfortable for seeing that entire last lap. Walk us through it here, Jarrett.
Yeah. That win is entirely from my experience racing Andre, and just I know at this point, having raced him so many times, that I cannot give him an inch at all. Like, he's always raced me somewhat fairly. I mean, he did push me off and get me a slowdown, but in the end, I was able to get the lead back. Like, I knew, like, that last lap, I thought I had it exiting, I think it was Village, going on to that first sort of straight into the left and in the right. I forget what they're called, but I thought I had it because he just spun the wheels in that exit, and I was like, okay, cool, I have this. I've got like 12 seconds to push the pass. I used 6 of it there to try to maintain that, and then he must have just had enough saved up to use a bunch going to cops and close right in. And I sent it into the S's harder than I have ever sent it in my entire like I between iRacing, instead of course F1 2021, like everywhere I could have driven Silverstone, that was the hardest I've ever sent it into the S's ever. Um, I don't think I could have gone any faster in that section just to build up like an extra 2/10 that I needed with the amount of push to pass I had to just hold him off. I mean, there was a little bit of contact here and there, but like I decided I knew he wasn't going to give me an inch going into um the last few corners, and like I decided to not give him an inch either, like, because I knew he'd take it. He would win that if I rolled over for him. So I just tried to be as aggressive as possible, and then ultimately he just ended up spinning the wheels and sort of giving it to me. But I think I had it exiting the chicane at the very least, even if he didn't spin the wheels, because like I just had the inside line there. But man,
It certainly was elbows out all the way to the line once that final lap started. And kind of walk us through this race, is obviously you had to retake the lead at a certain point. It was fairly contentious. You'd build out maybe a half second, 3/4 of a second gap. Castro would close back on in. It seemingly came down to who was able to put it all on the line come the finish here. Was there maybe some different strategy options you were taking earlier on with that push to pass number that might have played into a bit of a better opportunity for you to maybe extend that lead out a bit further in the closing stages?
yeah, initially I tried to pace myself. Like I was sort of maybe targeting to use 5 seconds a lap. I didn't want to use like none and leave myself open. But of course, when I had bigger gaps, especially towards the end, like after I passed him the second time, the gap seemed to stabilize a tiny bit bigger than it was before. He got around me, and then I had to pass him back. So I didn't use push to pass for a tiny bit because I already used up a bit to try to defend and then attack again. So I was just sort of trying to manage that, and then come the end, I thought I was going to be good, and then he just had a lot more, which I guess explains why he wasn't holding as close to me as he was before. Um, but apart from that, I mean, there wasn't much managing going on. I was giving it my all out there. I mean, I even tried. I was running 2 bars for the whole race because in practice it felt good. I tried switching it to 2-1, and then I got more sliding in the rear, so I had to switch it back up after a lap or two. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was full push, and I mean, I was doing my best to just hold on with what I had without using too much.
Well, you certainly had to use every last drop of it to get out just ahead. Sophie, you got anything for Jarrett tonight?
Well, Jarrett, you were kind of talking about how you knew you needed to race Andre there. How worried were you with how much he was able to close up on you through Maggots and Beckett's? It seemed you were faster in the first sector, but it seemed he really was able to close up in that last sector. How scared were you of that send into Stowe?
Um, Going into Stowe on the last lap, I thought I was gonna be good, and he carried so much speed around the outside of me. Like I was kind of shocked at the speed he carried there. I'm not gonna lie, but I mean, I felt like it was the opposite across the whole race. I felt like I was really gaining the time in the most part in the chicane. There was a point early on in the race where I was comfortably gaining like 2/10 on him, and I think eventually it sort of to even out. And then it actually felt like I was gaining more time in turn 4, if anything. Especially towards the end, he just couldn't get the power down as well as me. Um, but I mean, for sure, Maggots and Beckett's, he definitely seemed to, at least on the first lap. On the first lap, he was like a tenth quicker than me, and it's like, because that was a section that I was sort of on cold tires. I was bringing it down to third gear, and I think it's turn 13 in that whole section, and then every other lap, fourth gear. So it was like, okay, so I'm just gonna hope that that was only a lap one thing, and he seemed to be close on rest of the track. Um, it didn't seem like there was really any specific point where he had closed back up, but he definitely seemed to maybe eke out like a tenth or so, like every lap or 2 laps or so, and get closer to me just across the whole track, especially because it seemed like he did figure out the chicane.
Well, ultimately, you were able to know your competitors, know yourself, know this track, put it all together to pick yourself up a win here at Silverstone. You know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors. Floor is yours, Jarrett.
Yeah, Rogue Racing, P1 Broadcasting for putting this on. Indy and Seb for putting in a bit of work for Old Atlanta for Indy Open. I mean, we didn't get a great result, but like I felt like almost comfortable at Old Atlanta, and that's a track that I have a big skill issue at. So um, they're putting in the work. Our people are putting in the work on the roadside, so I'm very happy with how things have been going.
Well, certainly not a bad place to be to round out the night here on the top step from Silverstone. We'll hopefully catch you out next time out as the series heads to Mid-Ohio for its series debut.
Yep, I'm looking forward to that one.
As are we, Jarrett. Go celebrate tonight.
But thanks.
That'll do it for Jarrett Corey, and we'll get Andre Castro's car up on the screen, give him his due for finishing second here tonight. Give our opportunity to get some more closing thoughts in here from this race from Silverstone. Obviously, this track has a long storied history in open wheel competition, and it would not surprise me for us to come back here in the not too distant future here at Indy NXT Road Series competition, Sophie, as we had ourselves quite a race.
Yeah, this was a fantastic race. Battles up and down the pack. Lots of drama, the contact and the mid pack, and of course that finish. Andre Castro putting it all on the line there and ultimately having that contact with Aiden Kale. But what a race, Jacob. I don't think we've had a race that exceptional on a non-IndyCar track in a long time, Jacob.
Certainly would have been a good long while, and I think we'd have to maybe go back to the race we had a couple seasons ago between Corey and Bomer at Interlagos with the famous pass that Corey put on Bomer kind of through the S's, doing a bit of a wheel tap through the corner to get every last ounce of speed out of that to pick up the win there. But it's been great to see this series been able to go to some of these more iconic world international venues and put on a great show. We'll get Takumi Numato's car up on screen. He's sporting a Cadillac Formula One livery on his IL-15, so it's only fitting We get it up here on the screen here from Silverstone, where the real car will take to the track at a point in time. And we'll thank everybody for joining us for round number 2 of 2026 Season 3 here from Silverstone for the Indy NXT Road Series. Hopefully everybody come back tomorrow for about as big of a polar shift as I think we can get here, Sophie, as the Indy NXT Oval Series will take on South Boston for 100 laps under the lights. Be there or be square. Have a good night, everybody. We will catch you next time.